awk is a utility programming language used mostly for text processing of data in the form of fields and records. In this video, my goal is to introduce some simple awk examples to give you a sense of how it works, or the basic flavor of it. It is a full-fledged programming language which books and entire courses have been written for, so in this video we'll just explore a few common examples. So the first one is just searching for a pattern or a term like we would with grep. So if I do awk single quote, the awk code we want to execute, in this case /road/, is a search term, and we give it a file. So it's going to look for occurrences of the word road in this file, trnt.txt. Now the file contains the poem The Road Not Taken, the famous poem by Robert Frost, and it finds that he uses the word road twice, here and here, in the word roads. We could do the same thing in grep by just doing grep road trnt.txt, and in Ubuntu on the command line with grep, it highlights the term that it finds, but the output is the same. Now we can do a little more with awk. Let's say we'd like to extract a particular term, let's say the first term on each line. So with a file like this poem, it assumes that each row is a record and each word is a field. So if I want to access the first field, the first word in this case, I give it $1, which will return the first word on each line. And these are all the title, then the entire poem, and then Robert, so it's his name at the end. Now if I'd like to access the last word, since it varies, we don't know what the last word or how big the poem might be, so each line could be different. There might be 10 words on a single line. The next one could have 12, the following could have none or 4, or something or other. If we want to be sure we get the last one every time, we can use the reserved variable or keyword NF for number of fields, and if we put a $sign before it, it will return the last field or last word on every line. And here we get the first one, so the road not taken, so taken is the last word, then the entire poem, all the last words on each line, and then the author's name at the end. Robert was the first word, and Frost was the second. Now, we don't need to use spaces or tabs as delimiters, so by default, the field separator in awk are spaces and tabs, but we can specify a field separator by setting the built-in fs variable. So we saw there's an nf variable for number of fields. There's also an fs variable for field separator. Now I have this CSV file, which I'm going to output. It's Ottawa Hourly June 2015. So this is hourly weather for June 2015 in the city of Ottawa. Now the file format is comma-separated values. So we have the time and then the various time parts, so date and time. And then we have some more information here. So this line right here, this element is the temperature. So we can say 2015 0630, so June 30th, 2015 at 11 p.m. The temperature was 17.4 degrees Celsius in Ottawa. So if we'd like to extract, say, a couple of fields from this, we could do awk. And then at the beginning, we'd like to use this begin directive to say execute the code in this block. So between these parentheses or these braces, so we'd like to set our field separator equal to the comma, because that's what separates all these fields. And the begin means do this before you start processing each line in the file. And then we'd like to do a print of number 1. The first field, so this one here, and then if we count out, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we'll print 1, followed by a space, followed by 7. So that'll give us this date time here in ISO 8601 format, and our temperature in Celsius degrees. Close it. And like the begin, so we have this begin directive to execute this. Then for each line, this block is executed. And then finally, if we'd like to specify something at the end, I can say end. and execute this at the end. I can just do something, say done, let's say print, done processing, followed by, let's use another file name. So this is the actual file we're processing, which we can include in our code. And this is Ottawa hourly June 2015.csv. So here it went through the entire file, printing the date and the temperature. Now something I don't like here is the double quotes. I'd like to remove all the double quotes from the file. So what I can do is on each line, there's a function called gsub, which I can give it a double quote. So I need to escape it. I've put a backslash. Since the double quote has a special meaning, I can escape it by giving it a backslash, then the double quotes. I want to replace that with nothing because I want to get rid of it. And I want to do that on the first variable or the first field. And I want to do it on the 7th field. And then each expression or each function is separated by a semicolon. And if I hit enter, it should print the same thing, but without the double quotes. So that looks better. Now, there's a lot of records here, so if I just output it to the console, I can't scroll back and see the whole thing. But one thing, if I look at this file, if I run head and give it the CSV file, in the head of the file, it has all this extra information that I don't want to include in my processing. And if I put head -n18, this will give me the first 18 lines of the file. And I see here, I've got all these lines. So the first 17 lines contain information about the file. And then the 17th line contains all the field headers for the data. And then starting on the 18th line is the data I'd like to process. So what I'd like to do is ignore the first 17 lines of the file. So if I arrow up to my code, what I'd like to do is before the body of the processing of what awk does on each line, so this main block here, I'd like to give it a directive before it saying nr for number of the current record. So nr gives me a number of the current record, and if it's greater than 17, I want to do the processing, otherwise I ignore it. So this says only process if the line number is greater than 17. So at the end, I can redirect this output into, I'll call it Ottawa processed.txt. And now if I output this Ottawa process, it has the output of my awk command. And if I look at the head of it, it shouldn't have any of the same information it had with these hourly. So the head of this had this information here. But if I look at the processed file, it just starts with my first record. So at midnight on June 1st, that's where I'd like it to begin. It outputs the date and time and the temperature, just how I specified in my awk function. Now awk also has loops, arithmetic operations for numeric values, it has print formatting with the C-style printf, and lots of regular expressions if you need. It is a full-fledged programming language built around this line-by-line text processing. And that wraps up this introduction to awk.